This is a new bike, and today we're going to try to turn it into an old bike by exploring swept back handlebars and setting up the perfect bicycle cockpit. Let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Tom and this is Shifter, a channel about urban cycling, bike commuting, and the ways we get around our cities. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing. So this is a new bike for me. This is a Priority 8 and I've had it for about 3 months and I'm actually loving it more than I expected because it's kind of replacing a bike that I have irrational emotional attachment to. My favorite summertime bike, and it was my SE Triple. Now I know this has not been a great bike, but I made a whole video about why I love this bike and not always for rational reasons. The problem was people kept emailing me asking me where they can get one of these bikes, and the answer is, well, you can't. They don't make it anymore. So when earlier this year a new bike sponsor signed on, and that sponsor is Priority, which was great because I've been riding a Priority Continuum Onyx through my winters for years and years and absolutely loved it. So I was thrilled that they signed on as a sponsor. But when they did, one of my first things that I put to them was, hey, do you have a bike that's similar to my beloved SE Triple that I might be able to recommend to viewers of this channel? And what they said was, yes, we do. And voila, here it is, the Priority 8. In a nutshell, I'd say that this bike is zippier, speedier, and dare I say, more fun than the Onyx. Now, both of them have this carbon belt drive, which is a system I've come to love because it's so clean and smooth and low maintenance. This bike has a Shimano Alpine 8-speed internal hub, which has been great. It's light and responsive and quick compared to that Involio hub on my winter bike, which I find a little bit sluggish, but in the winter I don't mind because I'm going slow anyway. But I've been really enjoying the additional zippiness of this one. So as a replacement for my beloved SE Triple, this bike is probably better technically in every way, but there has been one thing that I've been missing. And yes, the thing I miss about that bike is the handlebars. Flat bars like this just don't do it for me for reasons I'll explain later. And so today I've got 3 types of cruiser bars or swept back handlebars, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to try them out in an attempt to find the perfect handlebars for me on my bike, and then we're going to get our cockpit all set up. All right, that's enough talking. Let's go. Okay, let's start with these flat handlebars that I've been riding for a few months now. Now, there's nothing wrong with flat handlebars. There's a lot of great things about them, which is probably why they are common on so many bikes here sold in Canada and the US. For one thing, they give you a lot of control and they put you in a fairly aggressive riding position, which gives you a bit more speed, both of which I think are important to a lot of commuters. For me, I just find them not that comfortable when I ride for a long period. My hands tend to get numb, which probably has more to say about the crumbling infrastructure of my back than the bars themselves. But that's why I've been looking for an alternative. Now, to make a good decision today about the handlebars that are best for me, I have a foolproof ranking system here. I'm going to rank it on these 4 areas. So initial comfort on these is pretty good. I think once you get on a bike like this, they feel pretty good. I'm going to give them, we'll say, a 7. Long-term comfort, and this is the problem for me, is that it does tend to make my hands numb, and because you're leaning forward a bit more, it does affect my back a little bit, so I'm going to give that a, we'll say, a 6. The next one is body position, and for me what I'm looking for is sort of that balance between comfort and speed, and I'm leaning more towards the comfort side of things because that's just how I like to ride my bike. So for body position on this one, I'm going to give those ones also a 6, and so an overall score on these flat handlebars, that looks like it's going to be about a, we'll call it a 6.4. Don't check my math on that. So these are the scores that I think for the flat handlebars. Now, we're going to move on to those cruiser bars, and we're going to start from the widest and move to the narrowest, and we'll see how things go. Okay, I had my tools out and made some changes. Here's the first handlebar I'm going to try out, and yeah, it looks a little absurd, doesn't it? So this is a full-on cruiser handlebar. This is actually Electra brand. It's really made for a beach cruiser, and yeah, it doesn't feel like a nice fit so far. I mean, one of the problems clearly is that these cables may not even be long enough. I had to adjust these brakes and the shifters way down here because I didn't want to make it so tight that I couldn't even turn, so they're way out of whack. But the brakes work. That's the important part. The brakes work. It looks kind of absurd to me. I'm sorry, everyone who works at Priority, for ruining your bike, but this is all in the name of science. Let's give this a try. I don't know what's going to happen. Here we go. Oh. That's not bad, actually. Huh. It actually works. So it works, that's one thing. And it's actually pretty comfortable. I'm so upright. This changes like my whole body position. I mean, come on, this looks ridiculous, doesn't it? I don't know, it feels absurd. Does it look absurd? Oh, and yes, I have no hand grips. I'm gonna wait till the end to do the hand grips separately, which is worth mentioning because some guy just stopped to mansplain to me how dangerous it is to ride a bike without hand grips. I said, sure, thanks. But also, we'll get to that at the end. Let's get into it. So for initial comfort, I'm gonna give this pretty high score. I'm gonna give these bars, I'll say an 8. When I first got on there, they felt great. It just felt so relaxed. Long-term comfort, however, and this did not take long to realize, is that it's not the best. Really what was happening was my butt was getting sore. How do handlebars affect your butt? Well, it's pushing me so far upright that I was sitting on this seat, and this bike is not built for that body position. So all my weight on my butt was not the way this was built. If you really want to use handlebars like this, really you should have a different stem on here. The geometry of the bike should be a little bit different. So it's kind of like just out of whack a little bit too. So I'm going to give long-term comfort, I'll give that a 4. Body position, while I am after a more laid back body position, this felt just a little too laid back. I'm really trying to find that balance between speed and comfort. This was too far back, so I'm going to give this maybe a 5. Overall, I'm going to give this maybe a 5.5. So there we go. There's the score for the Cruiser handlebars, and while it was a lot of fun, probably not the best option. Okay, next up I'm going to do what I'm calling the classics, and these are similar to these Cruiser bars. They're just a little bit more buttoned down. They're not as wide, they're not as sweeping, they're just a little more classic, and so I think it'll be quite different. Let's give these a try. Oh, this feels much different. Oh wow. Huh. Initial comfort, bad. I'm going to give it a 4. As soon as I got on, I thought these handlebars are not right for this bike. Long-term comfort got even worse, so I'm going to give it a 2. What was happening was like they were too short to bring my hands back to be actually comfortable, but at the same time they were weirdly pushing my shoulders up, so I felt like I was riding like this, and like they're just wrong in all sorts of ways for this bike. So I'll give that a 3. Overall, I think I'll give this a 3. These are wrong in all sorts of ways, and so I'm going to get rid of those and we'll move on to the next ones. Okay, so my pannier bag full of handlebars is almost empty. This is the last one I've got, and this one I'm most looking forward to actually because I looted it off my beloved SE Triple. It has just a little bit of sweep back. They're still pretty flat, so a little bit more flat than the other two. This one might be sort of the perfect balance I'm looking for, at least it was on my old bike, so it'll be interesting to see how this goes right now. Oh, yes, now we're talking. This just feels right. I mean, this is the stuff I was looking for. There we go. Okay, I am ready to weigh judgment on this one. So, initial comfort, these felt great to me because I've used them before, but I'm trying to remove my feelings of emotional attachment to my old bike from this impartial, very scientific process. And I would say bars like this, if all you've ever ridden are flat bars, yes, that's what happens here in North America. I know all you Europeans out there are thinking like, what's the big deal? We have flat bars here. If all you've ridden is flat bars, these take a little getting used to, so I'm gonna give these a 7. For long-term comfort, I think they're great. What I like about it is that it turns my hands in a different sort of position, which for my anatomy seems to work better. And it also gives me a little bit of relaxation in the way I'm sitting. So I'm gonna give this an 8. For body position, this for me has found the perfect balance between forward and aggressive and upright and relaxed, because I find, I've said this before on this channel, but I find just leaning back a little bit just changes your whole outlook on cycling. It's a weird psychological thing where it just makes me a little more relaxed, a little more laid back, a little less sporty, and a little more about transportation in a weird way. So for me, I really love that body position, so I'll give this an 8 as well. And then overall, these I think are the winner for me, so I'm gonna give this, we'll give the whole thing an 8. And so, you know, again, flat bars for most of you might just be fine. These are what I'm after in this case, and I'm happy with this. That was kind of fun, actually, and I found something I like. But I'm not done yet. We are not done yet here. We are still going to, you know, prepare the rest of this cockpit. So let's start that process now. Okay, first step in setting up your cockpit is a good set of hand grips. Now, I don't normally think about grips like this, but somebody emailed me recently asking for advice on the kind of grips you should use on swept back handlebars. And I was like, I have no idea, I've never thought that. I mean, there's a million kinds of grips, but basically they can put them into two big buckets. One is just the sort of the round ones, and these are the ergonomic ones. These are a pair of Konas that I'm gonna try on this side, and on this side is some Evos that have that ergonomic grip to them. I'm gonna ride around and just see which ones feel better, and then we'll go from there. Okay, in the test of hand grips, what I'm going to go with personally is this one, the round one. This ergonomic one was surprisingly comfortable right off the bat. My hand fit in there like a glove. But what I like is that there are options to move your hand around a bit. I feel like my hand would be locked into one position in this one, and maybe on a long ride, if you want to change position, it would be a bit more tough. So if you're just doing short rides and that hand comfort is really important to you, these would probably be great. But for me, I'm going with the old-fashioned round ones for variety's sake. Okay, and the last step on a cockpit is our handlebars. There are like a million things you can put on your handlebars. I've tried bike computers, speakers, all kinds of things that go on here, but I'm down to two things only. Okay, the first thing you need if you're riding in the city is a bell, because you want to alert people when you're coming up behind them. And there are 10 million bells, and do you really need a great bell? Probably not, but I do love these crane bells. They're Japanese, they just sound, and I do like the aesthetic of them as well, so that's going to go on the handlebar there. And the only other thing I would say you need on your handlebar is a phone. I mean, you could mount a computer. I've had all kinds of bike computers and devices over the years, but what I find is the phone does all that probably better. And my favorite is this Peak Design mount. I've got the Peak Design case on my phone, which I love. It just snaps in here and locks right in. It's really secure, but also it looks great, feels really good. I recommend this removable one, because here's my hot tip. When you go traveling to a new city, take this with you, because when you get that bike share, you can put this on there and you'll have the maps with you wherever you go. So buy the one that's removable, and you can just slap it on there and you are good to go at any time. So let's get this all mounted up. Okay, there we go. New handlebars, new grips, new cockpit. This is feeling really good. I'm quite happy. That was pretty fun too. It's nice to play with these things. Sometimes we get stuck in our routines, and bikes are the best. You can just change stuff up and it feels like a totally new experience. Just want to reiterate that this setup is great for me. May not work for you, but I hope you got something out of this. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I did. And I'll see you next time.